started thinking, are there sounds that can... Well, and I started going, all right, well, the 7 main chakras are each given a color. The first chakra, which is at the base of the spine, is red.
Okay.
And there are 7, and by the time you get up to the 7th, you're at the crown chakra off the top of your head, and it's violet.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, so it's all energy, so what are the frequencies of the energy? And I go to Google and put all that in, and it says, oh yeah, and the center of red's about 435 terahertz, and the center of violet is about 760 terahertz. So the musician in me says, oh, so the visible light spectrum, because below red is infrared, which we feel is heat. Above violet is ultraviolet, which we don't see. So the visible light spectrum for the average human is an octave in terahertz, 10 to the 12th. I went, oh, well, isn't that convenient? Okay, well, how do I get that terahertz down into hertz? And there is a method in mathematics called decimation. And basically it just says, throw stuff out equally everywhere. So I'm looking at 435 terahertz to 760 terahertz, and I go, oh, throw away terahertz. So now we have 435 to 760, and 435 was kind of, I just kind of picked that one. I mean, I could have picked one side or the other. It just was in the middle of red. And I looked at it and I went, oh, well, 440 is concert A. When you hear when you hear an orchestra tuning, I guess it's the violins or the cellos or somebody hits an A, and that's at 440. So I went, oh, well, that's convenient. So red is the first, and that's A. So the chakras are A through G? Wow, isn't that convenient? So I created a soundscape across 6 octaves that was nothing but A notes, figuring, okay, you can have a harmonic or a subharmonic of A at 440. A harmonic would be 440, 880 would be the second harmonic. Below 440 would be 220. So I can go up and down, but I just want to make it A all the time. It's just like, on an 88 note piano, there's a bunch of different A's, depending upon what octave you're in.
Yeah.
And so I made them all, put them all together, and I gave them to a friend of mine. I said, you've got a club it's a book club that meets monthly, yeah. Would you play this for your club, and don't tell them where to feel, ask them if they feel. And she came back to me a couple weeks later and said, well, she said 3 people felt absolutely nothing, but the other 12 of us all felt this in our lower abdomen. I said, well, that was A. Okay, she said, and I wanted it to rise up in me and make my heart sing, but it wouldn't. I said, well, that would be A, B, C, D. So I said, all right, let me get back to you. So I went back in and recreated it in D and sent it to her. And she said, oh, yes, that's where I feel it. So this has opened up a whole new thing for me. It's not particularly profit-oriented, but I am happy to say that there are people who have benefited from the soundscapes that I've produced. Again, going back to my musical skills and engineering skills. And I've also evolved as an energy worker. So where does that all take me? I have no clue. But it's made me, being an energy worker has made me, I think, a lot more tolerant with all people.
Yeah. And that's interesting, you have gotten into all these different careers and different places, that's very interesting to me, very.
So, people come to me and say, my son wants to be a recording engineer and record bands and be a superstar. What do I do? And my stock answer is, okay, fine. Send him to a school where he can learn audio engineering, but he also has to learn video engineering, shooting and editing, and some writing so that he can actually write a presentation. This way, he can market himself as a script screen producer, make projects for people, and have them look and sound good. But you have to have the words plus the audio plus the video in order to do the whole deal.
Yeah.
And at worst, he might end up as a corporate communications person. and that, depending upon where that takes him or her, that may not be bad at all. I bring up some kids and send them to school.
Yeah. My last question for you is, what is your advice to people who want to be in these types of entertainment fields? I know we've touched a little bit of this in each background we went into for you, but do you have any other advice?
I teach voiceover to whoever finds me, and after 20 minutes of trying to talk them out of it, they're like, "No, I really want to do it. Stop beating me." I said, and I've had one guy, a nice guy in his 30s, come in, and he has a nice voice, but he wasn't doing any eye contact at all. And I said, "Look, before you take another class with me, there's a class. I think you need to take a class at Toastmasters."
I've heard about that group. I have a friend who is a member of that group.
Yeah, I said, because they teach you how to get up in front of people and talk. And you can't tell your case. You can't tell your story unless you have these skills. And they're not that difficult. And the biggest problem is most people are scared to get up in front of people and say stuff. And if you can't do that, then you can't tell your story. So I tell them, go to Toastmasters and get comfortable being in front of people. Get to a point where you can do eye contact as you tell somebody something. Mm-hmm. Because this is the essence of direct communication.
Yeah.
So that would be one thing I would tell them. And if they don't have, and also it allows you to make cold calls. It gives you the nerves to do that, because in the beginning, you have to get your word out there about who you are and what you do. Here's another thing, look for professional associations in your geographical area that have something to do with what you want to do. Join them, get to know the players locally, and let them get to know you. Because if they buy you for one thing the very first time, and you have more than one thing to offer, the chances are that you can, they will buy something else from you, another product or service. Mm-hmm. But they got to get to know you first.
Yeah. And some of my advice to people is, stay positive, be positive and don't give up,
Exactly. And what was I going to say? When trying to communicate with someone about yourself, your product, your service, it's usually a better idea rather than blah, 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 I do all this stuff. A much better approach is, even if they ask me, they'll say, "Hey, well, what do you do?" I say, "Well, I do a lot of audio and video and writing stuff, but tell me, what do you do?" And they'll say, "Well, I work in a company and blah, 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 blah." And I'll say, "Well, how does that work? I'm interested in learning what their process is and how many people they have to work with." And I said, "Well, what's your biggest problem?" "Well, my biggest problem, God, is getting, a great voice track. I mean, we just have crap because we're using people in-house or whatever it is. And if you have a product or service that solves their problem, now you've got something to talk about. Yeah. You know, in the beginning, I would just go, and they'd say, what do you do? And I'd be often going, blah, 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 telling them everything. Then I realized that about a minute in, I could see like their inner eyelid would close, and I knew they were no longer listening to me. And I said, well, what's the essence of great sales is to be a great listener.
Yeah. Listen to learn and learn to listen is a piece of
Amen.
Well, I want to thank you for letting me interview you. And
my pleasure.
And that was Ty Ford. Join us Tuesday evening as I interview a very, very wonderful character actor, Mr. M. Emmett Walsh. God bless.